I married him 3 weeks after we met. I know how that sounds. Believe me, I've heard it from my parents, my friends, strangers on the internet who think they know better than I did. But I need you to understand something before I tell you the rest. I was 24. I'd just gotten out of a relationship that left me feeling small and forgettable. And then there was Ken. He noticed me. He made me laugh. He made me feel like maybe I wasn't as boring as my ex had made me feel. So when he asked me to marry him after 3 weeks, I said yes. Not because I was stupid, because I wanted to believe that something good could happen fast, that I could be chosen quickly and completely. My parents hated it. They didn't even come to the wedding. They said I was being reckless, that I was doing it to spite them or to spite my ex or both. Maybe they were right. I don't know. What I do know is that I stood in front of a judge in a courthouse and I said yes to a man I barely knew, and I walked out of there feeling like I'd won something. Ken was a mechanic. He worked at a shop near where I lived. He had grease under his fingernails most of the time, but he cleaned up nice. He had this crooked smile and he was confident in a way that felt solid, like he knew who he was. I worked as a legal secretary at a small firm. It was fine. I was good at it. But it wasn't what I wanted to do forever. Then, about a month after we got married, I saw a job posting. A company that did aerial photography for the government, classified stuff, surveillance, mapping. I didn't fully understand all of it, but it was interesting. It was important. And the pay was almost double what I was making. I applied on a whim. I didn't think I'd get it, but I did. They called me 2 weeks later and offered me the position. I remember standing in our tiny kitchen, holding the phone, feeling like my chest was going to burst. I told Ken that night. He hugged me. He said he was proud of me. It felt like everything was finally coming together. There was one catch, though. I needed security clearance. They told me it was standard for this kind of work. Background checks, financial checks, all of it. I wasn't worried. I'd never been in trouble. I'd never even gotten a speeding ticket. But there was a form, a long one. Pages and pages of questions. One of the questions asked if my spouse had ever been convicted of a misdemeanor or a felony. I remember sitting at our kitchen table with that form in front of me, a pen in my hand, looking at that question. I called Ken over. He was in the living room watching TV. He came in with a beer in his hand, looking relaxed. I said, "Hey, they're asking about your record. Have you ever been convicted of anything?" He barely looked at the form. He said, "Nah, I got a few traffic tickets, but that's it." I wrote it down. Traffic violations, minor stuff. I didn't think twice about it. Why would I? He was my husband. I trusted him. I submitted the form. I started the job. I had my own office, my own desk, a computer, a window that looked out over the parking lot. It wasn't much, but it felt like mine. I loved it. For 2 weeks, I went to work every day feeling like I'd finally made it, like I was building something, a career, a life. Then, on a Tuesday morning, my boss called me into his office. He looked uncomfortable. He didn't smile. He said there were two people who wanted to speak with me. Two men walked in, suits, badges, federal agents. They asked me to sit down. I remember my hands going cold. The fluorescent lights felt too bright. My boss left the room and closed the door behind him. And I was alone with these two men who looked at me like I'd done something wrong. One of them said, "Mrs. Adams, why did you lie on your application?" I didn't understand. I said, "I didn't lie." He opened a folder. He slid a piece of paper across the desk toward me. He said, "Your husband is currently on probation for a felony, a drug charge." The room tilted. I stared at the paper. I saw Ken's name. I saw the word felony. I saw the dates, the charges, the conviction. I said, "That's not possible. He told me he didn't have a record." The agent looked at me like I was either incredibly naive or a liar. He said, "We suggest you talk it over with him. You'll need to leave the premises." That was it. They walked me out. My boss wouldn't look at me. My coworkers stared as I packed up my desk. I put my coffee mug and a framed picture of Ken and me into a cardboard box, and I walked out of that building knowing I was never coming back. I don't remember the drive home. I remember gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I remember my vision blurring because I was crying and I couldn't stop. When I got home, Ken was there. He'd taken the day off to work on his truck. He was in the driveway, leaning under the hood, and when he saw me pull up in the middle of the day, he straightened up and smiled. He said, "What are you doing home?" I got out of the car. I slammed the door. I walked right up to him and I said, "Why didn't you tell me?" He wiped his hands on a rag. He looked confused. He said, "Tell you what?" I said, "About the felony, about the drug charge, about the fact that you're on probation right now." His face changed. Not guilt exactly, more like he'd been caught doing something he thought he'd gotten away with. He said, "Oh, that, like it was nothing, like it was a joke I didn't get." I said, "I just lost my job because of you. Federal agents questioned me. They think I lied. They think I'm a criminal." He started talking fast. He said it was years ago. He said it was just weed. He said it wasn't a big deal. He said he didn't think it would come up. He said he didn't want me to worry about it. I said, "You told me you didn't have a record." He shrugged. He actually shrugged. He said, "I didn't think traffic tickets counted." And I just stood there in the driveway, holding that stupid cardboard box, realizing I'd married someone I didn't know at all. The worst part wasn't the lying. I mean, it was. But it wasn't just that. The worst part was realizing how much I'd lost because of him. That job wasn't just a paycheck. It was the first time I'd felt like I was doing something that mattered. It was the first time I'd had my own office, my own space, my own title. And it was gone because he didn't think his criminal record was worth mentioning. I tried to get another job in the same field. But once you've been flagged for a security clearance issue, it follows you. Every application I filled out after that asked the same questions. And every time, I had to explain what happened. Some places didn't call me back. Some places did, but the interviews felt cold. Like they'd already decided I wasn't trustworthy. I was 24 years old, and my reputation was destroyed. Ken and I stayed together for a while after that. I don't know why. Maybe because I didn't want to admit I'd made a mistake. Maybe because I was afraid of being alone again, but it didn't last. How could it? Every time I looked at him, I thought about that morning in the driveway, about the way he shrugged, about the way he acted like it was my problem for caring. We separated 6 months later, divorced a year after that. I've spent a lot of time thinking about what I could have done differently. I could have asked more questions before I married him. I could have waited longer. I could have done a background check myself, I guess, though that feels insane to say out loud. But the thing is, I don't think any of that would have changed anything. Because the problem wasn't that I didn't ask the right questions. The problem was that he lied. And when someone lies to you about something that big, something that affects your entire life, it doesn't matter how careful you are. You can't protect yourself from someone who's willing to let you take the fall for them. That's what he did, you know. He let me take the fall. He knew I was applying for that job. He knew they'd ask about his record. And he lied anyway. And when it all came crashing down, he acted like it was no big deal, like I was overreacting. That's what still makes me angry, not the felony itself. Not even the lying, really. It's the fact that he didn't care what it cost me. I'm 30 now. It's been 6 years. I've rebuilt some of what I lost. I have a decent job. Not the one I wanted, but it's fine. I'm okay. But I still think about that morning sometimes. About standing in that office with those two federal agents looking at me like I was a liar. About packing up my desk while my coworkers whispered. About coming home and realizing the person I'd married didn't even think my career was worth protecting. If you're listening to this because you're young, or because you're thinking about marrying someone you just met, or because you're wondering if you're being too cautious, I'll just say this: you're not. Ask the questions, even the uncomfortable ones, especially the uncomfortable ones. And if someone gets defensive, or if they tell you you're overthinking it, or if they act like you're being paranoid, pay attention to that. Because the right person won't make you feel crazy for wanting to know the truth. And the wrong person will let you lose everything before they admit they lied. I wish I'd known that at 24. I wish someone had told me that love doesn't mean trusting someone blindly. It means trusting someone who's earned it. Ken didn't earn it. He just showed up at the right time and said the right things, and I wanted so badly to believe him that I didn't ask the questions that would have saved me. I don't blame myself for that anymore. Not really, but I do carry it with me. That knowledge, that scar. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's just what it costs to learn that some people will let you burn if it keeps them warm. I won't let that happen again.